Good afternoon. My name is Megan.
Hi, I'm Emery.
Hi, I'm Emily.
Hi, I'm Morgan.
Hi, I'm Savannah.
Hey, my name is Juju.
We are students with the UAB Occupational Therapy program, and today we are going to show you a video about healthy boundaries. In this video, we will talk about what is occupational therapy and its role for helping clients to set boundaries. We will also show you how to set healthy boundaries and what this may look like. We will show you an example of healthy boundaries, step-by-step instructions for a fun activity, as well as closing statements. We hope you enjoy our video.
Occupational therapy is so unique as many people describe it in their own original personal perspective. While everyone has their own definition, we all strive for the same goal as occupational therapists. My personal definition of occupational therapy is that it is the means of therapy that works to maintain or progress one's ability in meaningful occupations. Meaningful occupations is anything you love to do, you want to do, or are expected to do. These are things like brushing your teeth, writing on a piece of paper, typing on a computer, being able to cook, being able to garden, or even brush your hair. Setting boundaries is considered mental health. By establishing boundaries with people around us, we are making a positive impact on our mental health. As occupational therapists, it is our goal to increase our clients' quality of life. By establishing healthy boundaries, we are able to have the strong foundation of a sturdy relationship with our clients, allowing us to maximize treatment, which overall increases both health and well-being of our clients as well as ourselves.
Okay, so now that we're talking about occupational therapy's role, I now would like to discuss what healthy boundaries are and what setting healthy boundaries look like. Sometimes we forget that boundaries are healthy for any relationship. They can help support a balance between you and others. They also can minimize conflict because they allow you to build an agreement rather than walking around with expectations with other people. So sometimes we have those expectations, they aren't met, and then boundaries can be crossed. Setting healthy boundaries also promotes mental health and well-being, which again is what occupational therapists are involved with, well-being, and obviously mental health. So now I'd like to discuss, now that we know what healthy boundaries are and what they can do, now I'd like to discuss what healthy boundaries look like. So as you can see from the slide, healthy boundaries tend to have these characteristics. It's when you're able to value your own opinions as well as others. You don't compromise your values for others. You share personal information in an appropriate way. You know your personal wants and needs and can communicate them to others. And you are accepting when others say no to them. On the other side, unhealthy boundaries can look like difficulty with saying no to the requests of others, dependent on the opinions of others, and fears of rejection if you do not comply with others, and very protective of personal information. I personally really like this image down at the bottom right, because it shows how if we respect each other's boundaries, we can approach that line and we can still communicate and we can have a healthy relationship, but knowing that that line is there and that it's not meant to be crossed, but it's meant to be respected. I think that's great. And then also looking at these unhealthy boundaries, knowing that being able to recognize them is the important thing, so that after we recognize them, we can actually move forward and we can hopefully change that situation or address that situation as needed. But again, extremely important to recognize what unhealthy boundaries might or could look like.
Okay, guys, so I wanted to give y'all some images of boundaries so we can start thinking about them in our relationships. A lot of times for me, it's helpful to have a concrete image that I can refer to when I'm thinking about something as abstract and as complicated as a relationship and setting a boundary in a relationship. So if you start to think about physical boundaries in the real world of people's houses, We can think about walls that people build. We can think about fences or hedges, a moat, anything really to signify what is their property and what is not their property. Specifically, when people build a wall around their house, it's very private. So if you think about in a relationship, if you're the house, you think of yourself as the house, and you build a wall around yourself and your life, you're going to be pretty well protected, but you're also going to have the downfall of not being able to receive support when you need it, because nobody's going to know what's going on in your yard. And you're also going to not really be able to make relationships and connections with your neighbors because your walls are built up so high. A lot of times people do this as a result of being hurt, and so they do it as a self-protection mechanism. And then on the contrary, when we think about houses that have no boundaries and no barriers, we really can see how problematic that can be. In a different sense, instead of being protected from anyone, being protected from certain people, anybody can come into our house and anybody could come into our yard and destroy it or trample it as a result of us not having clear boundaries and defining what is our yard. So those are physical boundaries, but you can also think of them as in a relationship. I'm sure y'all have seen movies or had personal experiences of these two types of boundaries, which are both unhealthy and problematic for different reasons. A healthy boundary, though, looks like a fence. So again, if you're picturing yourself as a house and it's your piece of property and you build a fence, you want to build a gate in that fence. So right here, we see these two neighbors in their yards, and you can tell whose yard is who, but you can also see them socializing and really enjoying each other's company. And so in relationships, we can think of it the same way. If we both, the people that we're interacting with, if we both have fences with gates in it, then we really can connect about the things that we need to connect about, ask for support when we need to ask for support, but also maintain our personal identity and privacy. It gives us actually a lot of freedom to do what we want to do in our yard, because as you can see, this gate can go up and these two neighbors can have the privacy that they need and do whatever they really want in their yard. And it doesn't concern the other neighbor because the other neighbor won't be able to see. But if something terrible is going on in one of these guys' yards, then he can easily let the gate down and talk with his neighbor, ask him for help, ask him to come over, and invite that relationship or help as he needs it. In the same sense, one of the neighbors can't just go over to the other person's yard without asking. So it kind of keeps us, when we think about building a fence with a gate, it keeps us from wanting to or trying to control other people's property, because we really have a good, clear picture of what our property looks like and what we can do with our yard. So I hope this image can be helpful to y'all as it was for me, and help you remember the freedom that you do have in setting boundaries, and that it's not a way to end relationships or be trampled in relationships like the other two images.
Now that we have discussed what are boundaries, as well as the difference between healthy and unhealthy boundaries, let's discuss how you go about setting your own personal boundaries. So if you are currently going through, are a survivor, or are a caregiver of someone who has gone through cancer, you may find that setting boundaries is going to be pretty important to incorporate in your life. There may be things that you feel uncomfortable sharing, and that's perfectly fine, but you need to know at what point do you want to draw the line as far as what information you want to give out and what information you do not. So in doing so, we found that journaling is a great way to be able to help people identify what boundaries they want to set. You can simply write down things, interactions that you have with other people throughout the day, write down what makes you feel comfortable, uncomfortable, things like that. And after a while, you'll start to discover a trend. This trend will then help you to be able to know what boundaries you might want to set for the future. So what we'll do next is go ahead and talk about what is journaling and the different ways you can do it, as well as go over a little activity that might help you to be able to find your own personal boundaries.
All right, so what is journaling? What do you think journaling is? And how do you do it if you've never done it before? So, journaling is a written record of our thoughts and feelings. And so, what is the purpose of this? It could be a place where you compile your thoughts and write them down. So, throughout the day, at different points during the day, how are you feeling? What are you going through? What are your thoughts? Do you have any emotions attached with them? It could also serve as a place of reflection. So if you look back on your journal a day later, a week later, a month, or even a year later, you can read back through what you wrote down and say, this is where I was a year ago, or however long ago you wrote it. This is the obstacles that I was facing. These are the accomplishments that I've made since then. How do you journal? It really starts with a pen and a piece of paper, or even a computer. All of us have different resources available to us, and so it's really about using what you have available to you. And then how do you format a journal? There's really no right or wrong answer because the creativity allows you to make it whatever you'd like it to be. And so what if you're not creative? Or what if you don't know how to do it? Well, some examples on this side of the slide is you could start by writing in paragraphs, or you could start with small, simple sentences of how you're feeling or bullet points. You could even do calligraphy journal. Calligraphy is just a fancy word for cursive handwriting. You could even draw. If you really like to draw, this might be an option for you. Sometimes images and drawings are really accurate depictions of what we're feeling. And then the last option could be pictures, or it could be a song. Some of us listen to really great music, and it really reflects and resides with how we're feeling. And so that might also be something that's an option for you.
So now we're going to give an example of journaling. So on this slide, I just have 3 journal prompts. All I did was Google journaling prompts for setting boundaries. So if there's anything that you want to write about, I would just suggest Googling whatever topic and journaling prompts. They're just kind of like a guide just to guide your thoughts and your writing. But obviously you don't have to use a prompt. You can just write whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking. They're just kind of a good way to give you a place to start. And then sometimes when I journal, I find that I'll start on one prompt and that will take me to a completely other topic. Like it just helps your thoughts to flow. So on the next page, I have an example of my journal that I did for this. So I journal on my iPad just because I don't keep track of pen and paper very well. So I always have my iPad with me and it will save everything that I've done and I don't have to worry about losing it. But I'm still able to write, which is more personal to me than typing on a computer. That's just like my preference. So I just have like a nice little title page. So it sets it apart from all my schoolwork. And then I have the topic of the journal written and the date. I like to put the date because then you can look back on things that you've written and you can see like your progress or things that you may still need to work on, things that you're still feeling. So I think it's just a good way to keep track of everything. So I just wrote down all 3 of the prompts and answered them. I kept it kind of short just because I wanted to take a picture of this and show an example, but you can write as much or as little as you need to, just whatever you feel gets all your thoughts out, gets your point across, just whatever you feel comfortable doing. Journaling is totally individual and personal, so it's really up to you. This is just kind of a guide to get started if you've never journaled before.
And this concludes our video. We hope that you were able to gain some insightful knowledge on how to set healthy boundaries, as well as how to go about setting boundaries for yourself. We have attached a quick reference handout, which you can view later in the future should you have any questions about some of the important information we talked about in our video. Thank you for your time.